Is the leader on your fly fishing cast curving off to the side, or do you wish you could make it curve and you're unable to do so? In this video, we're going to talk about how it is happening, how you can make it happen, or how you can stop it from happening. I'm Captain Chris Myers, Central Florida Sight Fishing Charters and Orlando Fly Casting Lessons. A lot of my students have an issue with the leader or fly curving off, usually to the left for right-handed casters or to the right for left-handed casters, and they don't want it to do so and they don't know how. I have had other clients that I've worked with that said in the streams they fish, they would like to be able to throw a curve in there to keep more slack in the line and make a more drag-free drift. So in this video, we're going to show you how these casts happen, so then you will be able to make them when you want and stop doing them when you don't want. The first thing we need to realize is that this fly line can only go the direction that tip was traveling the moment the line passed it and the tip stopped moving. If we want to lay out straight ahead so that our casts look something like this, as we're making that stroke, especially from back towards the front, that stroke must be in a straight line if we're going to cast a narrow loop, and we cannot have rotation of our tip within that line. If your cast is curving off to the left, it is certain that your tip, as it was traveling towards the target, could have been going straight most of the time, and then at the end, it curved off to the left. So if I want to do one of these on purpose, there are two ways I can accomplish this. One is by twisting my wrist and or moving my wrist in a curve if you're looking at me from above. So if there was a camera directly over me, it would see this cast curving around out towards the camera. If you're having this problem and you're not sure what's doing it, the first thing I would look at is your hand position. We all start in a handshake position. We grab the rod, either thumb on top, finger on top, it doesn't matter. You're in this basic position. This is where you're going to return to at the end of the cast. If at the end of the backstroke, your hand is facing a complete different direction, so now my fingers, if extended, are pointing that way when they started pointing this way. I have rotated that entire thing out, and now I'd be looking at my thumbnail. If I started thumb on top, my index finger, I would be looking at the back of my hand. If we put that into motion, it looks something like this, either completely twisting the hand around like this, so you can see how my fingernails now, and you see the real side of the reel. Now you don't see it. Now you do see it, now you don't see it. If I'm doing that, as it comes forward, it's hooking it off to the left. I could also pivot at the elbow and do the same thing with my entire forearm. It makes a much bigger, wider loop usually, and it makes a much more pronounced curve. So now I only got a couple of feet of line going straight. The rest of it is completely curved over to the side when I did that. If I go back to the hand one, it throws a little more subtle curve, usually at the end of the stroke. So now I have half the line going straight, then it's curved off to the left. So if that is happening to you, the first thing I want you to do is either look at your reel, or even better, your hand. If you see this reel flopping back and forth, you're for sure twisting that rod around. Maybe we want to do that on purpose. So we could do that purposely on our cast. If I want to hook this thing off to the left, and you can decide whether you want to save it till late in the cast, so I could make the twist and save it and put it really late and hard. Now my line is swept all the way up here. My rod is pointing over here. So once again, as in many of my videos, you must realize this is never about where our rod is pointing. My cast went over there. My rod is pointing a complete different direction, but the tip told the line to go that way as it stopped and snapped over there. If we did it throughout the stroke, so here's one no rotation, straight, no rotation, straight. Here's some rotation. Again, I got a big hook. If I want to make a curved cast, I find it on purpose, I find it a little easier to make sidearm casts. So here is a sidearm cast that does not curve. That one laid out perfectly straight. Here's the straight line that my tip needs to maintain in order to make a narrow loop that lays out straight. We can have that line down here sideways like I just did. We can have it straight up and down, anywhere in between, as long as that tip is going back and forth in that track and not twisting in the track. So it's maintaining the same orientation throughout that track. You're going to get a narrow loop with a straight top leg, a straight bottom leg, and it will unroll straight. If I want to throw that curve cast sidearm, what I can do is go down that same straight line and add a little bit too much power, which will start to overbend the rod. And if I overbend my rod, instead of the rod tracking through a straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line, here's our no bend. As I pull, I get more bend, more bend, more bend, more bend, more bend, more bend, and it maintains that straight. If I add too much bend, what happens is this rod tip will counterflex the other way, like that. Whether it doesn't matter whether it's in the front or the back, that counterflex is going to make the line go in a different direction. Now, to make it really easy to see on the camera, I'm going to first do it overhead. So here is proper amount of bend, proper amount of acceleration. Now I'm going to start overpowering it. You can see how the line is now dipping down towards the water out of my tip. If I take that over to the side and I add too much power, now I have a 15-foot curve to the left. If I wanted less curve, I can simply back down on the amount of power I added. So you can play around with a little bit of curve. There's a little curve. There's even less curve. Here's more curve. They're all ending up pointing this same exact direction, but they are all telling that tip to bounce over here more or less, depending on how much I'm overpowering that stroke. So if you want to cast on purpose and you have room to make sidearm casts, those are the easiest ones for you to curve over. At the end, there's a complete 90-degree turn in that cast from that sidearm. It takes very, very little effort, and then the lighter the rods you have, the easier and the softer and slower action you have in those rods, the easier it is to do this, whether on purpose or accidentally. So 2 things you want to look for. Are you twisting your hand? Are you over bending the tip? Those 2 things could be causing your cast to turn off to the side, or that is the way you can turn your cast off to the side if you need to use that. Another reason I may want to use this cast is if I had a piece of shoreline. So if I wanted to go, if I could reach that shoreline and make this curve cast, and I can do that, now as I strip this cast, it is coming from my left to my right for quite a long time. So no longer is the cast coming in. So if I could put it up against that shore, I can now come down the shoreline more. If there was a rock or a log or some other obstruction and I wanted to get around the other side of that, you could curve cast around it. And certainly if you had a current, it would make a perfect drift. And then you're not having to cast your fly line over or on top of that obstruction in the water. That is how we make a curve cast. That is also how we can stop doing curve casts. We don't want, if you want to tighten up your fly casting loops, you can come see me for a one-on-one casting lesson if you're in the Orlando area. I can also do virtual analysis of your fly fishing cast, or you could watch this video right here.